What's up, you guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. This is Ex-Wives Club. This is Season 2, Episode 5. Honestly, y'all, this show is just a bunch of old women getting drunk. But it's still pure chaos. But this show is just drunken mess. Drunken mess. Just drunken mess. But let's get into it. Okay, y'all, so before we get into the review, I wanted to go over this tea right here. Like, I'm just kind of like, I don't know how happy I am about this. I just feel like, bleh, I'm not happy. I'm not happy, and I want something different. So, this article is from ET Online, and it states, Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip Season 3 cast revealed, and they're all dynamic duos. That's a lie. The Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip is taking their drama on vacation once more, and now we know which casts are officially filming the third season this summer. ET has learned that duos from several of the famed reality series franchise will be ditching their home cities and heading on a girls' trip. The current cast includes Real Housewives of New York, Leah McSweeney, Tinsley Mortimer, Real Housewives of Potomac stars Giselle Bryant, Candace Dillard-Bassett, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City stars Heather Gay and Whitney Rose, and last but not least, Real Housewives of Miami star Alexia, I think it's Escacharo, and Marisol Patton. While the cast has been widely speculated on fan accounts, it was Real Housewives of Miami star Alexia who reposted a photo of the potential lineup that seemingly confirmed the news to the fans. The post stated, Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip Season 3 begins filming July the 17th. Can't wait to see my queens of Miami on the newest installment of Ultimate Girls Trip. The post went on to gush that Alexia and Marisol are going to be an epic duo, going to be epic on this. And then they just showed a picture of who Alexia posted. It says, it is not currently confirmed where exactly the Housewives will be headed for the season 3. However, the reality rumor mill seems to think that the women will head to Thailand, though this is just speculation. And here's my thing. I'm okay with Alexia, Marisol, Giselle, and Candace. And low-key, even Leah and Tinsley, but it is bad weather Heather and Whitney Rose that I don't care to see. Like, Salt Lake City is trash, it's garbage. We already had to deal with a whole bunch of racism. I don't want to deal with it on this cast. It's just like, they're not good for TV. Salt Lake City is such a dud. Salt Lake City is such a dud. Like, it came when it came. We were all excited. It brung in something. But then season 2 came and it flopped to the point where it was like nobody was invested in seeing any more of it. And now I'm like, I don't want to see them women on here. What about New Jersey? Where the New Jersey girls at? Like, heck, even go to Real Housewives of DC, even though that doesn't exist anymore. I legitimately do not want to see them ladies on here. And then for them to say like dynamic duo, like Alexia and Marisol, yes, even bad weather because they're cousins. But Giselle and Candace have such a frenemy relationship. I don't know how that's about to go. And even with Leah and Tinsley, Leah did not have Tinsley's back. Like, Leah low-key, at times Leah was fanning the flames of hatred that the ladies had against Tinsley. So it's just like, why didn't y'all pick like Robin and Giselle to go on the trip? Why did we pick Candace? Or if you could have, we're the Atlanta ladies. You couldn't get they could have put Kenya. Well, no, Kenya's already up there because I was about to say Kenya and Candy. But who could we put? Dang. Yo, there's no duos on Atlanta anymore since Marlo and Portia are gone. No, Nene and Portia are gone. And Cynthia's gone. Dang. So you can't do Atlanta. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to be. But let me know y'all thoughts. So let's get into this review. All right, y'all. So the episode opens up and it is the next day and it's day 5 on the 8-day trip. We find out on the itinerary the ladies are going to do a hot air balloon ride, then breakfast, then go out to lunch into town. Then they're going to have a pool hangout, which Dorinda keeps letting us know that she heated the pool for these ladies and she don't do that for nobody. So they better enjoy it because it cost her a pretty penny. And then they're going to have dinner at the Red Lion Inn. So everyone is getting ready to do the hot air balloon. They all have the perception that they were actually going somewhere, but the hot air balloon is actually being like hoisted up in the backyard for them to like go up in the air, I think 500 feet, and then it's gonna like sway. I would love to go on a hot air balloon ride, but I wanted to move. So but I don't know how far they can travel, but I would love to go on a hot air balloon ride just to see what happens. So like I said, it's the next day. Everyone is getting ready. We see Jill is still reeling from what happened on the night before on day 4 between her and Dorinda. And she's just like over it. She feels like Dorinda is just being mean and nasty. And it only really happens when she's drunk. And she's just tired of being, I guess, basically like a punching bag for Dorinda. Now, I totally understand that people don't like Dorinda in this moment because I've seen it a lot online, because Dorinda is coming off very angry. Like, she's just coming off angry, like just very angry and upset and just hateful a little bit. But I do feel like Jill is dragging this out because yes, what Dorinda did was wrong, but I feel like Jill talking to everybody, trying to check the temperature in the room to see like who's really on her side or who feels the same way she feels about Dorinda, that annoyed me. Because I feel like Jill has said multiple times how her and Dorinda are friends and she's always been there for her. And I'm like, if I have a friendship with someone like that, when you hurt my feelings, I'm letting you know. Like, there's no beating around the bush. I'm going to confront you. I'm going to tell you, you hurt my feelings. I deserve an apology. You need to fix it. That is very much my energy when it comes to those types of disputes with my friends. And I just feel like Jill was just doing the most. I do think she deserves an apology because Dorinda was being nasty for no reason. But I find it funny that both Jill and Dorinda are kind of like a part of the same, two sides of the same coin, or whatever that euphemism or quote is or whatever, because Dorinda makes situations worse because she doesn't read the room. She just goes off the deep end when she's drunk. And then Jill also doesn't read the room where she can't realize that she's making people uncomfortable with her thirstiness. But we see that all the ladies are coming down to ride the hot air balloon except Eva, because Eva is actually filming her radio show. Brandi is down there, but Brandi's afraid of heights, so she's not getting in there. But everybody else does. But before they get in the hot air balloon, we have a sit down between Dorinda and Jill. So Jill is talking to everybody like Phaedra, Tamara, and Taylor about what happened. And Dorinda walks out while Jill is talking to them. And Dorinda's like, continue. And that's one of the things I liked about Dorinda, that Dorinda anytime she heard the ladies on New York talking about her and she walked in, she would tell them to continue. Like, Dorinda's energy is very much so like, if you're going to talk about me behind my back, have enough guts to say it to me in my face. And I'm kind of with Dorinda on that. So Jill is like, I think we should have this conversation after the hot air balloon. And Dorinda's like, no, let's just have it right now. Because you talking about it, let's have it right now. So they have the conversation slightly. And Dorinda's just like, I was trying to take up for Eva. You were constantly asking her to be a part of her show. She basically told you it was a no-go and you just weren't getting it. And that's why you were being thirsty. And that's why I said something. And Jill's whole thing was like, I wasn't trying to be thirsty. I wanted to be like an audience. And she told you. And then Dorinda's like, she told you you couldn't be in the room. And you kept going. And the thing is Jill is thirsty. Jill is thirsty. Like I said, I like Jill to a certain extent. But I honestly was very indifferent when she got kicked off the show. I do feel like she was the glue to the show in the beginning because everybody that was a part of Real Housewives of New York was a friend associated to Jill. But after they got rid of her, I wasn't like upset. I felt like they did her wrong in a way, but I wasn't like deterred from watching the show. I still watched the show. So I just feel like Jill is still wanting to be on New York, just like Dorinda still wants to be on New York. I think all these ladies still want to be on their shows. That's why they're filming this show. If they didn't want to be a part of Real Housewives, they would not be filming this show. So everyone has a good time in the hot air balloon that was in the hot air balloon. Now they're all out and they're eating breakfast. Vicky brings up Dorinda's outburst saying that, Dorinda has gotten into it with like almost everybody, which she has. She got into it with Vicky, Tamara, Jill, and Brandi. The only 3 people she hasn't got beef with or hasn't argued with is Phaedra, Eva, and Taylor. And so Phaedra asks a question where she's like, do you think reality TV is like what messed up you guys' friendship? And Jill kind of was like, no, I don't think so. I think reality TV messed her up, but it didn't mess our friendship up. And I was like, okay, Jill. And Jill says, she's afraid of Dorinda because she was like, Dorinda is unpredictable. And I said, okay. Which she can be. Dorinda can be very unpredictable. We then see Eva come down, and Eva kind of doesn't like that the ladies are talking about Dorinda in Dorinda's home, as well as she thinks that them fighting over this whole radio show is stupid. So Eva goes to check up on Dorinda, and Dorinda's sitting in her room. And like I stated in my previous videos, Dorinda's home should have never been the destination for a girls' trip. Like, they should have went somewhere like the other women did. The other women went to Turks and Caicos. They could have took these 8 ladies. They could have took them to like, what's it called? They could have took them to the Bahamas, somewhere, some beach town, Florida. Even like they could have even stayed in Massachusetts for all I care. But the issue is that because they're at Dorinda's house, Dorinda feels the need to be the hostess with the mostest, and it's off-putting because she's being anal because she has these rules, as well as Dorinda keeps pulling rank on the ladies like, girl, this is my house. I can do what I want, when I want, how I want. If you don't like it, you can leave. So I don't think this should have been her spot, because she then begins to cry about trying to make everything perfect for the ladies. And then she also brings up how she found out that Jill was mad at her about the show. And Eva's like, what do you mean? And she's like, basically, I guess Dorinda filmed a few scenes with Jill or with other housewives, and either Jill was there or was invited, but it didn't get on the cutting room, like it fell on the cutting room floor. Like they didn't put it in New York, and that really pissed off Jill, and she was mad at Dorinda for it. So to me, Jill is fake. Jill is fake. Dorinda is not justified in the way she's been acting towards Jill. But to me, Jill is fake because you have all these issues with Dorinda. You don't really like Dorinda like that because you feel like Dorinda is very mean and she's not reciprocating the same energy you're giving her. But why are you still friends with her other than you think you're going to have a chance to be filmed on the show with Dorinda because you're a friend of Dorinda? So you're only holding on to this friendship because you're hoping that Dorinda and you will be filmed together, because it doesn't seem like y'all have hung out after Dorinda got kicked off the show, or y'all are really into communication with each other. Honestly, it doesn't even really seem that Dorinda and Jill are even friends like that. It just seems like Dorinda and Jill are like associates, and the only thing that really brought them together is that both their husbands passed away, and it was unexpected. So the next scene we have are the ladies like eating and drinking in some alleyway in Massachusetts, where they're having, this scene was actually really nice. Like everybody was drinking, but nobody was drunk. They weren't having outbursts. They were all just having a good time talking. And they bring up, Brandi brings up this question where she asks the ladies, when's the last time you've been in love? And Phaedra says she thinks she's in love right now with the guy that she's dating, and that she's really happy with him. They asked like, well, where did you meet him? She was like, I can't tell you that. She was basically like, I'm kind of a private person. She said some things you want to keep away from TV. She also said that sometimes you can't tell whether or not somebody is really for you because of being on TV, which I think that's true. You don't know if people want fame off of you, but she said she really does like this guy. So then they get on the topic of Vicky and her feeling like she hasn't been in love in a long time or something like that. She brings up about the dude, I think his name is Rick, the one that she broke up with, and they stopped having sex for 13 months. Tamra like airs Vicky out, where she talks about Tamra and Brooks used to get it in all the time. They had really good sexual chemistry. She used to talk about, his what all the time. And I was like, I was with Phaedra. Tamra, she a lady. And I was like, yeah, like, girl, stop telling her business. I was like, Tamra, shut up. And, they do a flashback of Brooks and Vicky. And like Brandi said, Vicky probably is a low-key freak, but she wants to keep this demeanor that she's not one. And she was like, it made sense because Brooks was this bad guy, so he had good what. And Vicky was just like, yeah, she's still feeling some type of way about being broken up because, like she said, she thought this guy was the one for her and he's really not. So she's just feeling like deflated and defeated in her romantic life. So then the ladies cheers about having like a better trip and all this stuff about like, letting that go, especially Vicky with her, like, with that guy and whatnot. Then we see the ladies all by the pool. Jill calls her mom. She tells her mom about what happened with her and Dorinda. Jill's mom, being a mom, is upset, talking about, I hope I never meet her because it's going to be an extraordinarily bad day for Dorinda. I'm like, Jill, say how you feel to Dorinda. Stop calling people. Stop telling the ladies around you. Tell that lady how you feel. It's annoying. So they all come out and they all start talking. Then this performative mess with her boyfriend, low-key, this whole episode lended to me realizing that Jill is really thirsty. Because why was your boyfriend sending you flowers for an 8-day trip? What, did you call him up and tell him that? And then he put an apple in there saying, she finally got her apple because, that's what they hold in Real Housewives of New York. He talked about not letting people burst her bubble or like derail her thunder because she got family back at home. I was like, it's not like she doing a tour. Like she's not going away for war. Like, I was like, this is entirely too much. Too much. They then asked Jill, does she still want to be on the show? She was like, yeah, but a friend of, I want to be a supporting member. Like, you get to be a part of the drama, which is true. Like, a friend of is like the perfect role because you still getting paid, but they don't have to be all up in your life. But I'm like, you're not friends with any of the current housewives like that. I don't think you kick it with Luann like that. I definitely don't think you kick it with Ramona. We know you and Bethany are kind of like okay, but y'all aren't friends like that. But who else on that cast? I don't even think you and Sonia are like that. And we definitely know you're not cool with Ebony or Brashawn or Leah or Tinsley. So it's like, who or how would you be a friend of if you're not friends with any of them? The only link you have is Dorinda. So that's why you keep being cool with Dorinda or tolerating Dorinda and her antics. So then Jill ends up getting up to leave. You then have Dorinda coming by. Everyone's making fun of like what everyone has on. You got Phaedra in that like see-through cat suit. Phaedra has a nice body for her age. And then everybody is starting to get ready for the Red Lion. Getting ready for dinner. Okay, y'all. So the dinner at the Red Lion Inn was a total disaster. It started off nice and then it went downhill. So we're at the dinner. Everybody is kind of like, okay, this is cute. They're talking about how old the place is. Dorinda is excited to show the ladies where she used to work. She's showing them how she used to be the waiter with the mostest. And then they sit down to eat dinner. They get on the topic of like whooping it up because Vicky's like, y'all, I'm ready to turn up. I'm ready to whoop it up. Where can we whoop it up around here? And because Vicky's like, it's a little stuffy out here. And Dorinda's like, it's not stuffy. And girl, what do you want me to do? We're in New England. And then Vicky's like, well, don't take offense. I was just playing. I'm just teasing. And then the conversation went to Vicky at like, saying that she was ready to go home. She was like, yeah, like, I'm ready. Like, I can't wait till it hits Thursday so we can go home or something to that effect. And everyone's like, no, we leave Saturday. And Vicky's like, what do you mean? Like, Vicky is acting like she didn't know this was like an 8-day trip. And so everybody is kind of like at the table like, Vicky, why did you come? Like, Dorinda says that, like, why did you sign up for this if you knew what it was about? Eva and Taylor are kind of backing up Dorinda, saying like, yeah, you signed up to be with us for 8 days. Vicky's whole thing is like, I'm not used to being around women this long. I'm like, you were on a reality show where y'all took trips for like multiple days with nothing but women. What are you talking about, Vicky? Like, what are you talking about? So Vicky's just like, yeah, I'm just not used to this. And everyone's like, what? Vicky, what? So then Dorinda's like, you know what? You've been very much a Debbie Downer, and it's annoying. It's very much annoying. And Vicky's like, I haven't been a Debbie Downer. And they're like, yeah, you have been, Vicky. Ever since your breakup, like, that's all you talk about. Like, you've been draining. And then you play this whole victim role, like we're doing something to you. So then Vicky is like, I'm a positive bitch. And everyone's like, no, you're not. But they're like, Vicky, we want you to have fun. Like, you're on this trip. We would like you to have fun with us. But it kind of gets draining oftentimes hearing you say how much you want to go home. So Vicky's like, okay, she's going to change it up. And I was like, okay, Vicky, I think she's lying, but all right. So then Jill and Dorinda start having the same topic of conversation about what happened with the whole Eva and her thing. So you can clearly tell Dorinda is drunk. Dorinda says she was trying to protect Eva from Jill being thirsty. Jill is sober because Jill doesn't drink. And Jill was like, I'm not thirsty. And then Dorinda's like, I was on a show that you were on. And Jill's like, well, you're not on it now. And there's probably a reason for that, i.e. trying to like signal like Dorinda's drinking. And she was like, because Dorinda keeps saying they put me on pause. They put me on pause. Like, that's how it started off. Dorinda asked the question, like, is there something about reality TV that like dishearten you or discourage you? And Dorinda talks about being put on pause and finding out from Andy and telling Andy that like she didn't want to know why she was put on pause if she couldn't change it, because Dorinda was like, she gives 110% for the show, so she didn't understand why she was let go. So then that's how the topic of conversation came about Jill, and then Jill saying like, maybe you were put on pause for a reason, and they're going back and forth. They then bring up about how the last time they saw Dorinda was in 2020, and like it was at like, I think that was like that Halloween party, and she like went off on Ramona, which Ramona deserved, because Ramona will always come into somebody's party and event and complain, and it's like, Ramona, do you have anything to show for what you got? Do you? No. But Dorinda lied and said she wasn't drinking, and she was drinking, and Jill was there. And Jill probably remembers because Jill was sober. So they get the arguing. Then then Dorinda brings up the whole thing about Jill having people film at her husband's funeral, and Jill lied. Jill blatantly lied and said that she did not authorize the cameras to be there. And Tamara was like, girl, no. Girl, Tamara clocked, and Tamara was like, you have to sign off on that. Like, and Jill was like, well, Bethany came with the cameras, and they were like, no, even if Bethany did come with the cameras, you still had to sign off on that. And then they show a flashback to the reunion where where Ramona was telling Bethany how she thought it was kind of tacky that the camera, like that Bethany brought the cameras, or that they filmed Jill's husband's funeral. And Andy chimed in and said, no, we actually got clearance to film from Jill. So then they asked Jill in the confessional, like, we have the emails from your assistant saying that it was okay for you to, like, for them to film. And she was like, well, did you send it to my personal email? And I'm like, Jill, don't play semantics. Your assistant sent that because you asked him to. You just didn't want a paper trail back to you. So sis, you are a thirst bucket. Like, just own it. Just own it. I thought Jill owned that, but she didn't. Then they talked like they somehow, some way, they ended up apologizing to each other. They hug each other. They end up kissing. And in her green screen, Jill was just like, I don't like arguing with drunk people, so I'm going to just apologize so we can move on and go forward. So then we have Taylor fudging up the vibe because everybody was actually really happy that Jill and Dorinda made up, or they hugged, or seemingly got over their issues. And then Taylor, being drunk, prompts this question towards Brandi, where she asks Brandi, like, do you feel any remorse about outing the fact that Adrienne Maloof used a surrogate to conceive her family? And Brandi's like, everybody knew. Like, everybody knew. And Vicky's on the side like, girl, not everybody. Like, you told the whole world. Just because a few people in town knew doesn't mean everybody knew. So then then Taylor goes on this whole rant about how Beverly Hills was successful before Brandi came. We were all very classy, successful ladies. Then you came and put your cinnamon stick in this water of success, like messing up the water of success. Everybody's like, what does a cinnamon stick have to do with this? What does a cinnamon stick have to do with this? Then you have her just basically talking down to Brandi. So Brandi was like, so then Taylor's like, we were all successful. She starts bringing up People Choice Awards and stuff like that. And then Brandi sits back in her chair and she starts laughing. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, you're just like Jill and Dorinda. You still want to be on Housewives. And drunk Dorinda pops in and she was like, and you don't? Like, you're over here still trying to get fame off of a one night stand. And I think she was talking about what happened between Brandi and Denise. And my thing is, Brandi is being hypocritical, because we know Brandi still wants to be on TV. All of these ladies still want to be on TV, or they wouldn't have taken this opportunity to be to still be a part of the Real Housewives. So Brandi saying that they still want to be a part of Real Housewives is stupid, because you clearly want to too, because you're filming the show. So we can cut the crap on that one. So then Taylor starts trying to explain, like, I'm just saying, she tried to say that we weren't successful as a franchise before she got on, but we were. And Taylor, y'all were good, but with Brandi and what happened with your husband and other things and other salaciousness surrounding Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Brandi added to your success. So you can't take that away from Brandi. Like, without Brandi, y'all, like, I don't know if y'all still would be as great, but we've gotten really good TV moments with Brandi. Like, we just don't have to call a spade a spade. So then Brandi and her start arguing about success. And then this is when things just went downhill. So Brandi said something about being successful. And then, no, Taylor said something about we were successful before. And then Brandi said something like, were you? And she mentions Taylor's ex-husband's, I guess, taking his own life. And I rewound my computer several times, y'all, but they bleeped it out. So I guess they still are legally like, we not touching that whole situation. We're not bringing that whole situation up, because there was a lot of scrutiny on Bravo when that situation happened, because that man took his own life. And so everybody at the table was like, girl, like, you don't say that. Like, everyone was like, no. Eva was so turned off. Eva was like, I fight, but I don't fight like that. So Eva had to walk away from the table because she was just like disgusted and turned off by that. So Brandi gets off from the table. Phaedra and Jill follow Brandi. Then you have the rest of the ladies minus Eva still sitting at the table. And they're just talking about how Brandi goes below the belt. And like Phaedra said, if you're going to throw a rock at Brandi, you got to be ready for her to shoot you 5 times. Because to bring up someone's dead, someone's like, you know, taking their own life, like that's low. That's low. That's real low. So then everyone at the table is just like disgusted. Eva is like, y'all can fight, but you can't fight like that. Phaedra brings up how she's just like, I don't get how this situation involves Taylor. I don't know why Taylor is bringing this up. And Taylor was just drunk and trying to have a moment, because there was no need to bring this up, because you weren't affected by what Brandi did. You have other fights that you can like take up with Brandi because of what Brandi has done to you. But to bring up what happened between her and Adrienne, there was no need for Taylor to bring this up. So then Dorinda, being drunk as a skunk, sits at the table and she's like, you don't bring up death. Like, death is not something to play with. Like, we've all lost people. What if your son would have died? So then everyone's like, Dorinda! And I'm like, well, if Brandi can go below the belt, then Dorinda can go below the belt. Like, if Brandi can go to the pits of hell, Dorinda can go to the pits of hell. Like, one does not counteract the other. Brandi brought up somebody's suicide, and Dorinda brought up a hypothetical situation where you telling Brandi you wouldn't want nobody referencing your dead child if that happened. So then Brandi is pissed. Brandi want to put hands on Dorinda. Everyone's telling Brandi to walk away. And everyone's like, Dorinda, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say that. We're all parents. Well, Brandi shouldn't have brought up no dead person. Like, what are we talking about? So then Phaedra's like, she could be your mother. Because Brandi walked away from the table. Phaedra and Jill followed her. And then Brandi's like, she's only 5 years older than me. Baby, when I tell you that broke down the bartender couldn't keep it together. When I say that man was weak, he was weak. I was weak for him. So then Dorinda, being drunk, tries to go over there and like apologizes and still tells Brandi like, you shouldn't bring up or play with people's death. And then Dorinda's like, also, then Brandi's like, you mentioned my child. So then she acting like she gonna do something to Dorinda, calling Dorinda a bitch. But Brandi ain't gonna bust the grape. Because if she wanted to hit the lady, she could have hit the lady, but she didn't. So then she walks outside, and like Eva's outside. I think Eva was like smoking a blunt or like drinking her wine. She just didn't want to be a part of it. And and then Brandi's like, oh, I almost put hands on Dorinda. And that's where the episode ends. It went so bad at that table. Oh, it was so bad. But I'm interested in seeing how they gonna move forward. My thing is, for everybody to be mad at Dorinda for making a hypothetical situation about a dead child, I feel like you should still feel the same. You should feel the same way about what Brandi said. Brandi mentioned somebody's suicide, and Dorinda mentioned, what happened, like the whole analogy. It is what it is. To me, they both were wrong. Like, you don't play with death. Like, that's just not something like I would do. But I'm not going to think one is better than the other because they both were wrong. They both were totally and utterly wrong. But yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. Remember to be bravely authentic and drop down in the comments below. Bye.